Hey guys, first question. It's going to be a November fall slot for the Masters for the first time in its history. Cooler temperatures expected, I think, and different predominant winds, I think, as well. And plus the fact that there's no spectators. So, how do you think this will impact the event? You know, whether it favor the underdogs or so forth, so on. Anthony, perhaps?
I think as far as the weather goes, looking at the weather report, it could have been fairly nasty this time of the year. I think last year at this particular date on Thursday, November 12th, the overnight low was 2 degrees Celsius. So players
Wow.
would have gotten up to near freezing temperatures. But this year, it looks like it's fairly nice weather, pretty comparable to what they had in April. And I look back at what the weather was actually in April, had the Masters happen, it's very similar. Overnight's about the same, daytime is the same. So as far as temperature goes, I say nothing too different. The only thing is wind, right? Wind strength, wind direction, and also looking at the prediction, the weather forecast. It's going to come from all different directions, as far as I understand it, every single day. So it's not conditions that players have not seen before. So it's just going to come down, in my opinion, to like those. No, it's forecasted to be raining as well, so it's going to come down to those that rainy Masters, that wet Masters, the softer golf course, and not having patrons. Sure, it's a little bit different. You don't hear the vibes or the roars, but when the tournament gets started, all the internal pressures is going to come from within the players trying to win the golf tournament. So in that aspect, once you get the ball rolling, I don't think it's going to affect the Masters too much. So it looks like Masters of any other year.
Okay. Daniel, having played there before, you think it's going to be really different?
Well, the main difference that I think they're going to see is in the grass. The very green, lush grass that you see in April is going to look very similar right now, but it is a grass that most golfers in Asia are not familiar with. It's a rye Kentucky bluegrass overseed, which they lay on top of the Bermuda, which goes dormant in the wintertime. That's what you see, and it is very, very predominant. All the Bermuda is pretty much extremely dormant in April. It's had the entire winter to have not grown whatsoever, and the overseed has taken over completely by April. In November, since they just overseeded in the end of September, it has come in, so the grass will look as green as possible, but with the warmer temperatures that we've had, Bermuda grass is still very much prevalent. It has not really gone dormant. So the ball will play, you'll actually have better lies in the fairways. The ball will sit up more in the fairways. The golf course will be softer. The ball won't bounce and roll as much, just with the thicker grass. The big issues will be around the greens as well, with a thicker blade of grass. Some of the shots you'll see around the green might be a little bit different from what you'd see in normal other years. The biggest issue this week, obviously, is going to be the length of the golf course, with as soft as it's going to be with the rain that they're expecting, which is falling right now and for the next couple of days as well.
Okay, Jason, you think it's going to make a big difference November instead
Yeah,
of April?
I mean, listen, Anthony and Daniel have been to Augusta. Obviously, I've watched it and covered it for many years. The big changes for me, given that it's the only golf tournament really that's played at the same event, and while the players have been playing without crowds and galleries for the last few months, I think that's going to be, maybe it's going to be more weird for us as, covering the tournament and watching it as well. And of course, no beautiful pink azaleas. They are a deciduous flower, so they turn brown or they die during the winter. So that's there's going to be no pinks, down the fairways and around the greens as well. But I think for us, given that it is Augusta and it is, the same venue year in, year out since 1934, no galleries there is going to seem more weird than what we've witnessed over the last few months with tournaments around the world, I think. And I'm sure, like the guys have mentioned, it's not going to affect the players, but certainly for us, the viewer is going to be it's going to be a little bit weird.
Yeah, no azaleas. It's going to be really strange. Anyway, coming to the $1 million question, quite a lot of bucks on the line here. Who's your pick for the green jacket and why? Daniel, perhaps?
Well, obviously, the Masters is probably the easiest of all the four majors to pick a winner, or at least you can get a lot closer anyway. Just considering the nature of the golf course and the players that play, it's a reduced field. There's only 93 players. You can pretty much eliminate all of the first-time players in the field. And that's my wife's phone that she's looking for. She's found it. Okay, so yeah, so you can eliminate pretty much all of the first-timers. There might be a couple that might still have a chance, but I'll have to go with somebody that's a very long hitter, somebody that's played the golf tournament and the golf course numerous times. So I don't go really much past a guy like a Dustin Johnson or Rory McIlroy. And if I had to pick one of those two with just going in with recent form, I'd have to go with a Dustin Johnson.
Okay, DJ, a winning score?
Winning score is going to, I think, will probably be a little bit lower than normal just because of the fact that you get better lies in the fairways. It's a little bit slower around the greens. So some of those roll-offs, so you see the balls that roll off the edges of the greens and all, it's not going to roll off as far. You're going to have better lies. Ball will sit up a little bit more around the greens. So I'm going to say in the region of 14 under probably will be a good winning score, provided we don't get massive amounts of winds and you don't have to play through big squalls or whatever and just a light drizzle at worst. I'd say in the region of 14 under.
Okay, so you got DJ at 14 under par. Jason, who's your favorite this week?
Well, listen, I'm hedging my bets. I've written down, obviously, DeChambeau. Bubba's playing well. He's won 2 green jackets before. So I'm going to give you a few names. I mean, Rahm skipping in at 16 yesterday. That's a video that's gone viral.
Yeah, we saw that.
Rahm for the US Open of winged foot. Obviously, that went horribly wrong. What about Tony Finau, who he was 5th last year as well. Hasn't had a great year, but I don't know. And then Tiger, of course. I mean, the stats on Tiger are astounding. It's 13 top 6 finishes since 1997, 5 wins, of course. He's a defending champion. He's not in a great place. He missed the cut at winged foot and he finished tied 72nd at the Zozo. So let me give you a name. I'm going to go for Jon Rahm.
Okay, good pick. Score?
I think it's going to be, I mean, we've only had, 3+ scores since 1934. Zach Johnson, obviously one of those back in 2007, I think, at +1. Let's go for Jon Rahm at, what was Tiger last year? 15 under. So, it's going to be, the conditions are going to be kinder, aren't they? Like Daniel says, unless the wind blows. Let's go at -16.
-16, Jon Rahm. Okay, Anthony, your bet for the green jacket.
Well, I was going the exact line of reasoning as Daniel. You have to go top down over here at the Masters. So I was thinking, obviously, Dustin Johnson, that guy can play any golf course, whether it's long, whether it's short. He's been playing well. He's been playing consistent. And he's had this form since August, right? So he's one of the favorites. I would have picked him, but I'm going to try to give you a different answer since that was picked. So the next pick was going to be Jon Rahm. But Jason mentioned Jon Rahm. And Jon Rahm, just because he's near the top of the leaderboard, like week after week on a high percentage basis, I think his career his PGA Tour career the last 4 or 5 years. Well, he's been on tour for 4 or 5 years, but he's been near top 5, like nearly 40% of the time. In all the tournaments that he played, that basically means that he's right there looking for those couple of putts, couple of breaks. But just to give you a different name, it's going to be Rory McIlroy. And that is just because it's Rory and he hasn't been winning lately. And it's just about time that he wins. And I think coming into this Masters, because he has another Masters to play in 5 months' time. So it feels like, okay, if he doesn't get it done this time, then he's got one coming up really soon. And I think that'll just kind of relax him a little bit. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, and also quickly on the... Oh, sorry, Anthony, go. Sorry, score.
Yeah, you got to pick a score, Anthony.
No, score, I'm going not as low as these two guys, but it will be double digits. I'm going with 12 under par.
Okay. Doesn't...
also on the kind of reading that I've done as well, McIlroy, I think he got to Georgia, last Saturday. He's with his daughter, his wife, Erica. He's just, we kind of discussed it at winged foot as well. He's in a better headspace. And maybe the fact that the galleries aren't going to be reminding him of his 2011 implosion every second, might do him some good, right? You know, it's a good shot. It's a good shot.
Okay. I was talking about galleries. One player who obviously feeds off the crowds, off the roars of the gallery, is Tiger. So, you think Tiger's got a chance to defend, Daniel?
No, he's not
That was a
playing
quick
well.
no. Yeah.
His club head speed is 3 to 4 miles an hour slower than it was a year ago. There's a couple of reasons for that. One might be physical. The other might also be lack of confidence. It's hard to go after it hard when you're not really very confident. And Augusta National is not the kind of golf course you come to and find confidence. Either you have it or you don't. And I don't think he does. And I just think it's just going to be another week of struggles for Tiger.
Anthony, you think Tiger's going to be in there or not?
Well, it's slightly better than no. He's got a chance. I think he's got a chance. He always has a chance at Augusta. I mean, his formula for winning the Masters is not much different. You look at all his wins. He's led the field in greens in regulation. I think last year he was the leader in greens in regulation as well. And that's what he needs to do. But that's what he hasn't been doing leading up to here. And I think at the Zozo Championship, he wasn't there to really try to win the golf tournament. He was there, from what I saw, trying to hit high draws. Whenever he had a chance, he was trying to hit that high draw so that he can get that under practice, head into Augusta, and pull off that high draw on command. And if he does that, especially with his tee shots, and if iron game kind of follows it a little bit, which has been lacking, so if that iron game gets there, Tiger knows the nuances of the golf course as far as where to put the ball in relation with the pin, then he has a chance. But he has to come in. I mean, it is sad to say now, and I really hate to say it because Tiger's the greatest player, I believe. But he has to come like everything bottled up completely. So he's a player that comes in looking to play nearly 100% to his potential to have a chance to win now.
Okay. Jason, you think Tiger's going to be in there in the mix come Sunday afternoon?
No, I think. Listen, I did a show the other night, and I just picked out a quote. This was Tiger. I think probably at the weekend, just saying the entire year has been different for all of us. My run up to Augusta is unlike anything I've ever experienced. That's just the way it is. My game is definitely better than it was at Winged Foot. I feel a little bit more prepared, a little bit better, and hopefully that translates into playing the golf course. I mean,
yeah,
there's not a huge amount of confidence there, and given his form, since June, you'd understand why. Obviously, and we've alluded to it already. I mean, we remember, was it last year before the final round? He had to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I remember the lights of the cars were driving into Augusta, and we were doing a live hit with Daniel and Colette. It was something 5 in the morning. The cold weather, he's not going to enjoy it. Tiger likes warm weather. So yeah, Tiger's out. Although his record's incredible, but he'll do well to make the weekend, I think.
Yeah, I guess just being realistic, it's hard to see Tiger contending on Sunday. Okay, we're gonna go to Daniel since he's the only one among us who's actually played the Masters. That was in 2008. I believe you shot 78 in the second round and missed the cut. I mean, but must have still been an awesome experience.
In the first round, we could focus on that.
Well, looking back, I mean, it must have been an awesome experience, obviously. But would you have done anything differently in retrospect? Having the advantage of hindsight.
Well, I actually came into that week really struggling with my game. I guess the tension of my impending first Masters, I just got really tightened. I really got really wound up, a lot of anxiety, and I just wasn't swinging it well, and my rhythm was out. I was very jumpy and quick, which was always my mistake that I would make. My rhythm would get out. I would get very fast and quick, especially when I got very anxious. And it was that way for the most part of the week. The first round, I managed it fairly well, but then it caught up to me in the middle of that second 9. And so really, nothing really I would do different other than try to really make sure that I work on my rhythm a little bit more before going into that week. Just make sure that I'm used to being that amped up. But it's hard to do whenever you go and play in your first Masters, especially somebody like myself that is such a enthusiast of the history of the game and especially of that golf course, and have watched every Masters that's ever been played since it started televising in '86. Felt like I knew so much about it, which is a little bit of a detriment when you get there, because you're then aware of all the good things that can happen, but also all the bad things that can happen. And I just made too much of an occasion out of it. It was actually interesting listening to some of the younger players now talking. Ignorance is bliss. They really have no clue about history of the game, and they just, they go there. Oh yeah, it's a nice golf course. It's fine.
Yeah.
Bobby Jones built it here. He goes, who's Bobby Jones? And I'm like, I won't mention it. Yeah, but I mean,
Never mind.
It's so they just play it like it's another golf course, and I'd try and do more of that.
Actually, we spoke about that very quickly, Daniel, during the US Open, didn't we, Anthony, Daniel? About, was it Matthew Wolff? He was like, I know nothing about this course. I know nothing about the history of the game, and it just makes it much more simple game, I guess.
I guess.
And Colin Morikawa in his press conference this week said, alluding to your point, Daniel, is that because there have been so much television coverage of the tournaments from the past, of great shots or failed attempts, a lot of times you get out on this course for the first time and you're a spectator while you're trying to play the golf course. Like, exactly. I remember what happened here. I remember what happened there. That, that's not really a way to prepare for a golf tournament.
So I guess it takes a bit of the aura away, which probably favors the younger players. So we might see a fresh winner this week.
That's one thing I
call in.
What I noticed when I went and played at Augusta the first time, because I'd watched so many of the shots played into every single hole, the greatest shots ever, that you have this amazing visual that this is how this shot is meant to be played. Like, you get to 16, you hit it about 12 feet right of the hole, you use the slope, and it funnels down to the hole. Number 11, you hit it in the center of the green, and just, and these are the shots that you do. You bend it around to the corner on 13. So you've seen all these really good shots because they're only really showing you the best players, the way they're playing it while they're in contention to win the golf tournament. And then, so you've got this amazing visual, but then when you get up there and you go, wow, this is actually a really hard shot. It's not that easy. Like, hitting it just 10 feet right of the hole on 16, but the water is right there. And so I always said that Augusta National may be the most difficult, easy golf course in the world, because you've seen the possibilities when you hit great shots. You got the birdies and the eagles. But when you stand there and actually have to hit that shot, and you realize how hard that shot is and how small the area you have to hit it into, it's really tough. And especially if you miss, then you have a really, really hard time getting the ball up and down to say par.
And with the galleries around as well, it must make it feel much smaller, right? Hence why it's going to be so much, very different this week, right?
Well, that's funny you say that. That's another thing some of the players have mentioned this week, that one of the things that they have noticed, people, especially the players that have played there before, how much wider and more open the golf course seems without the spectators there. The fairways seem wider. The landing areas, everything just seems wider. Which also is a detriment in a way, because that takes your focus away, because you want to have your focus as narrow as possible. On a golf course that's already quite big and wide, it's hard sometimes for the players to really focus in, especially off the tee. You feel like you just go wail away at it, hit as hard as you can, but you still have to be really focused and have a small target to try to be going at. So there'll be some challenges this week without the crowds, because they do frame the holes very nicely. Without them, sometimes the whole golf course just looks like a big old wide open field with a flagstick at the end of it. So there'll be some challenges.